Welcome to One Foot in Both Worlds, keeping it real with Tania and Nette. Hey, Tania, how are you?
I am doing well, Nettie. How are you?
Good. I hope you're good because there is some very full on energy. My hands are sweating, and we literally just jumped on and have gone straight onto it. So the energy wasn't there before I got on the Zoom, but as soon as I got on, I could feel it sweating. But you've got some uh, exciting drink with you, haven't you?
So, as everybody's noticed, I cough all the time during the podcast, which is just an energy thing. I don't know why it happens. Right before I was coming on, I started coughing. So, I got myself a cup of tea in my coveted one foot in both worlds mug, keeping it real with Tanya and Nettie.
Whoa!
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm very excited to get mine. I didn't even have a drink with me. Maybe that was my problem today, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
love
have to
it.
say, yeah, the energies were super high. Like I'm feeling kind of jittery, and as soon as I sat down, I was kind of feeling that anxiety. I was feeling it a bit yesterday, so I was like, Nettie and I definitely have stuff to talk about. I'm also putting a halls in my mouth because I hate the coughing, but it happens.
Oh. Well, I'm feeling all
So,
this whoa, 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 whoa
mhm.
of emotion just coming up. And I wasn't. I mean, I just sat and had a meeting that was really calm and really low energy. And yeah, so this is exciting. I'm very excited about what
Mhm.
today is gonna bring about.
So did you have any thoughts about what we were talking about? Because I do, but I'm wondering because sometimes you.
Yeah, no, I don't, which is interesting because normally I do. There's a couple of things I'm happy to say, but I think we'll just go straight into it because I'm feeling like I'm being literally pulled energetically across to you. Um,
Okay.
so let's start there.
Okay. So the piece that I feel like Spirit wants to talk about today is I found extremely interesting. So the way that they kind of showed it to me was the subconscious being like a backpack that's sitting on your back. And this is the visual representation that they gave me. So remember in the past lives, we were talking about the seeds and about how the seeds feed into the nervous system. If you haven't watched that, go back to it. The other one that we talked about was the pineal and the emotions. And in that one, we talked about how when you process life, when you're sitting in the pineal, that's how you don't end up getting those seeds kind of passed down in your nervous system. But what this is to the past lives one is that the seed kind of gets activated when it's required in your life, and it's either it's good or it's bad or it's whatever, but it's kind of working through. So the thing that was really cool that Spirit said is that whatever the seed is, you're also provided with the solution in your subconscious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the way that they visually show that to me is that the seed kind of comes up, it sits in the backpack, but the backpack is also infused with the solution. So that's why like throughout the podcast we've talked about my sort of relationship uh uh what's the word? Patterns, right? And that I kept
Yeah.
kind of having to repeat,
I'm glad
repeat.
you said pattern. I was wondering what you were going to say there. So that relationship
What do
pattern
you think I
sounds
was gonna
good. I
say?
don't know. And I just thought it's like Tanya's going to release the whole swearing here. We're going to
No.
have to
Oh,
bleep a few
oh.
things out. But no, relationship pattern is very good.
Mm-hmm. And so how they kind of showed that to me is that like the seed needs to be worked through. The solution is in the subconscious, in that backpack on your back. And then life gets put in front of you in order to sort of work through those things. So now I kept obviously failing at sort of working through it. So it took time for it to happen for me. So it kept kind of the same thing kept kind of getting put before me in life in order for me to do that. But one thing that they do say is that when you process those seeds in that space of the pineal, you're gaining the information because the information is already in the backpack. Like it's already there in the subconscious. So when you access the pineal, you have better access to I'm not sure how to explain this. You have better access to the lesson and in working through it. Whereas if you're not in the pineal, which we've already talked, I spend a considerable amount of time further forward, everything that you need to work through from this particular seed gets placed directly in front of you over and over and over. If you're coming at a space from the pineal, you work through it. It's like the bullet train, right? Like you said, that bullet train of information. You're able to work through it and process it in a faster way where it doesn't necessarily have to be placed in front of you
Yeah.
in life, if that makes sense.
And I think you can identify the solution better. Like you go, oh, hang on, you're almost in a position where the issue or the seed is there, and you're not just rushing through and getting too emotional and missing the solution. And so therefore that solution is now no longer available. That similar solution will come up in your life again. And that's why we do those patterns, because they're presenting the solution, but you're too busy being emotional or just busy with work and not sitting in your pineal in general. And so you keep missing it. So this pattern, this hamster keeps going around the circle. And so you just keep carrying that
Yeah.
solution in your back. And so it is solutions in a way, isn't it? Not just solution. It's kind of a solution presented in different solutions. If you miss that, don't worry, you're going to have to come back to it again and again and again until you get it.
Yes.
It's not like you can bypass a seed and go, well, I just left that.
No.
In some
No.
ways, you can pass it down to the next generation, but you're still going to live the stress of it your whole life until you actually deal with it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love the backpack analogy. It's not the way that I see it, but I think it's the same theory. And I think this is probably one of the reasons they're bringing this up too, is you need to understand this in a visual or in a logical way that makes sense to you. And I think spirit will show this in lots of different ways, depending on what you need. And I think a lot of people will relate to the backpack. I think that's a really nice visual that spirit's given you to make sense. And it does feel like a burden often. It feels like you're carrying all this stuff on, the weight of you, and
Hmm.
releasing some of those seeds, can lighten that backpack so that you are dealing with less seeds in life to actually have to tackle. Or next time it's easier because you're not tackling that big seed first. You've chipped away at it. So I
Yeah, and
love that.
you've learned sort of the lessons as you move along. But I'm not sure if I fully got the point across, but what they said is that you're able to process it in a way that is different than having to have it happen in front of you in life over and
Yeah.
over and over.
Yeah.
So it does slow down sort of the life lessons
The
because
impact. Yeah.
yeah, because you're getting that. It's like you're getting more information, but you're getting more information, but you're just able to, I guess it's also that emotional piece of being able to process it.
Yeah.
But the other piece that they showed me was, how you said that you can't really ignore a life lesson. Well, you can, but that's when it goes into the suitcase, like you had brought
Yes.
forward,
Yeah.
where it just kind of it goes off to the side and it's like you're carrying around a briefcase
Yeah.
because it's been kind of pushed away where it's like, yeah, no, I'm not really willing to actually deal with this. So it goes and it sits in the suitcase. It can come back up because the solution is still there.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah.
it's felt. A suitcase is always felt. It's like you've always got that. So it's even if you
Hmm.
try and ignore it, and I don't even remember that, it's like it's there. But I think your point that you just made before, I think you did get that across quite clearly. It's like,
Oh, okay, good, good, good.
yeah, it's not you if you can process that before in a less impactful way, if you notice it and process it before it gets big. If you're not, it's going to get big. And so that's when you have to have that mega crisis in life to actually see it. Like spirit's like, okay, well, you didn't get it. So, I tried to explain it. You tried to sit there and you could have just subtly gone, I understand this. I don't have to live through it to actually process that. Whereas sometimes if you're not getting it, you have to live through it to process it. It's like,
Yeah.
well, we tried the little hump, you didn't get it. And
Yeah.
so now we're going on the roller coaster.
Yeah, and not to shame anybody when you don't get it. Like it took me a
Uh,
long time to understand, and I don't think that's what you were doing. It took me a long time to get to the depths of my relationship patterns. It took my father getting sick. Basically, the whole podcast walked through the whole damn thing,
Yeah.
right? And yeah,
What's
sorry,
your knowledge on numbers? Because I don't know why, but I'm not normal. I mean, no, I do see numbers like 111 and things like
I
that,
know a bit.
but 555 is
Change,
change. Okay, so I just keep getting 555. So if
major life changes.
555 is your number that you get all the time or you're getting all the time at the moment, this podcast is super important to you because they keep saying that the 555 that they're trying to show people is coming back. Now that's not normally where our podcast goes.
Yeah.
But I can't get it. And my hands are sweating to the point that I just want to go 555. It's just and if I didn't acknowledge that, that would not have gone away.
It's
So
so funny because I'm sitting here watching you, you're kind of going, your energy, it's, I have something to
well, it was my hands. It just kept wanting to bring my fives
say.
up. And I was like, I wanted to sit on my hands, but it was too much. So
Right.
I actually feel a release for that. So there's got to be people listening at the moment that is an extremely important thing to say. Okay, the pineal is the thing that I'm missing. The
That's been
pineal,
my missing piece.
yeah, or the pineal is my next step, if that makes sense. Or
Yeah.
even this, they're
Yeah.
showing me the frequency, like to listen to the last five, which is very interesting that we've done five of these, and I hadn't really realized that till now. So the actual download came in five pieces that it was given to us. So 555, your number. Do not ignore it because it'll just come back to you again. You'll have to deal with this at some stage. Let's just deal with it now. Yeah. And it's
So
a
is
good
it
ride.
so 555 to me means major life changes
Okay.
are happening. And I will start to see 555 when my life is changing or something's happening. I'll just start seeing five. And I have been seeing fives for months,
Yeah.
like all the time. It's crazy.
One of my
Yeah.
closest girlfriends has been seeing 555, but I actually didn't look up what it was. Um,
That's what it is.
so
Yeah.
yeah, she'd been telling me that. So it was interesting, but yeah, it was like literally my hands were like, if you can see them now, they're dripping. It's
Yeah.
like, oh,
So just to share, there's actually a website. It's called sacredscribe.com. And so you can just Google the number and say like sacred scribe 555 and it'll give you a big explanation of the number. It'll do it for like a ton of numbers and it's absolutely fabulous. Yeah.
yeah, awesome. And if in saying that, I'm working on a little dream thing at the moment. If five doesn't mean what that says to you, but it means something, know that whatever
Go with
five,
that.
yeah, go with that because your spirit is telling you 555. So it's telling you whether it is, I know I had a lady who she knew her mum was coming back. Whenever she feels like her mum's around, she gets 555. And so I think that means something different again, but that's just a way of her mum symbolizing where she is. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, but that's what it means to me.
Yeah,
So major life changes. All right.
yeah. All right. And they did say that you would know the answer to 555. So I think in this case, that's what the 555 means is I think you can comfortably sit there. Yeah.
I do know what the answer is. I do know what it is.
Okay.
Am I okay? You know what it is? Okay, everybody loves my dating stories. So I've been dating Anthony. Now, admittedly, I don't know where the relationship's going. We're getting to know each other. However, this man treats me like an absolute queen. Like treats me like gold, emotionally available. I don't carry things. We're like walking through a parking lot and he's like moving me out of the way of cars and he's a total gentleman. Like he totally takes care of me and it's actually a new experience for me to be doted on and respected and cared for in the way that he treats me. Like he just treats me like an absolute queen. So that's what that means to me is because in my past relationships I haven't experienced this type of care
Yeah.
and kindness and yeah, he's very much a man. He's a very lovely man. So
And I think that shows the breaking of the pattern for you too.
100%.
Yeah, because you may not have taken that from someone in the past. Like, I can do this myself. Don't like I'm not going to get hit by the car. I'm not going to get this. You know, how much of it is you just breaking those seeds and getting through those patterns that you had. And it's like, yeah, you know,
And
I can
just
be a
and
queen.
yeah, and I think you're right. Like just my not only am I attracted to that, but I'm able to receive it and not feel like I'm undeserving. Like there's even moments where it's like almost uncomfortable for me that I have to stop myself and be like, yes, you can carry that up the stairs for me. You
Yes.
know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and now I'm getting really spoiled. So, but yeah, and not to say, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? All that I can say is that there's a big difference in how I'm being treated.
Yeah.
I believe because of I was able to sort of work through those things.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's awesome. I'm so happy for
Make
you.
sense? Do you think
Yes.
that's what they were getting at? Yeah.
Five, five, five. There you
Yeah.
go. And yeah, and I definitely think that that's going to relate to a lot of our listeners today. So, yeah, I'm excited that this is about. I've got a little story if you
Ooh,
have.
I'm excited. I have another thing too.
Yeah,
Go.
okay. Um, I went away for Christmas. Everyone knows I went to Vietnam, got back for like 3 days, and then we traveled and we actually did a road trip down, caught up with old friends and things like that. It was really good. But I went and stayed in a house where the last time I had been there, or a time not, 3 years ago, I'd been there, someone was very, very ill. And when I arrived, I went in to see them and I could feel, as I'm a feeler with things, I could feel that they couldn't breathe. And the person caring for them said, oh, they've just started to get a bit silly. They're getting out of bed and in bed and out of bed and in bed. And I was like, no, he can't breathe. And I could actually literally could breathe. And I could hear this voice that was saying, help me, help me, help me. Now he couldn't talk anymore because he'd got to the point where he's doing, but the person caring for him wasn't aware that this was like not just restlessness. It was like, when you can't breathe, you want to get up and down. So I called the ambulance straight away and the person went into hospital and they died very peacefully not long after.
Oh, Nettie,
Um,
I'm so sorry.
yeah, but I was back in the house and being an energetic feeler, as I am, um, I was put in the bedroom where I saw him last and where he passed away, or didn't pass away, where I saw him not breathing. And when I would go to bed at night, as I would start to lie down, I wouldn't be able to breathe. And the first night, my son had a cough, and I thought, oh, I've got his cough, and was really restricted breathing. And it was only when I started to go down into that, almost REM sleep where you're just going, and I'd have to sit up, and it took me about 2 hours to get exhausted enough where I just fell asleep. And I woke up the next morning and I had no cough and I was fine. And then the next morning though, I woke up to my husband missing. He'd gone for a shower. I didn't know where he was. And I could hear someone yelling out, help, help me, help me. And my dog barked as well. So it wasn't just like it was part of a dream. And I could hear this giggling, kind of laughing, and then I could hear, help me. So I jumped up and I had like this little nightie on. So I quickly threw over a t-shirt, pulled on some long pants, and ran out the front door down their driveway where they had like a park area. And I was sure I would find someone being mugged or something. And don't ever do that on your own if you hear that. Okay. Because in hindsight, it was probably a
Because
really stupid thing to
when I
do.
think about it, that was dumb.
And it's not the first time I've done that in real life. Just went out and afterwards the police have gone, you could have got yourself killed. But anyway, I was out there disheveled in this thing, half asleep, going, where's the person that's calling out? Anyway, I came back in and I explained it to my husband, and he was like, oh, that's super weird. I said, I'm going to have a shower and then I'm going to walk the dog. And he's like, okay. So I went and had a shower. While I was in the shower, the doorbell rang. So Andy got to the door, nobody was there. So he's like, okay, that was a bit weird. And their house is set back on a bit of a driveway. So it wasn't like a press and run, kind of thing. But then his mum come out and she said, oh, that's been happening every now and then. I guess it's like ants in the doorbell or something. He's like, okay. Uh,
Interesting explanation.
Interesting. I know smoke alarms can go off from having ants walk and they sensor things. But anyway, he just went with that. But then I went for a walk, and as I got to the gate to turn towards the park, I'm like to the dog, we're going this way. I'm not going down there because I could still feel this help, help. So I went to bed that night, and as I went to lie down in bed, I got this breathing thing again. And so I started to like, really, what is happening with me? I'm not really coughing. I just really restricted breathing, but I would sort of try and cough to get some air. And I felt like I needed to stand up. So I stood up, then it didn't go away, and I sat down. And then I had this memory of this person actually going up. And I realized what I was getting was the stuck energy in that room
Yes.
from
The
when.
energetic imprint.
And this is what we're talking about when we talk about ghosts, compared to
Yes, that's
spirits.
exactly it.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in this really. And because I'm so in tune to energies and what was happening when I was falling down into that sleep, I was hitting a new frequency and I was opening up to more. So that's why I was getting it. When I was in the room during the day, I didn't feel it. But when I came into this and got to that certain level. So the third night, I thought I have to get rid of this stuck energy here. So I
Yep.
actually sat there and I straight away started for energy, and I just did energy work up and down my body and pulled the energy ball in and got rid of it. And I went to sleep really easily and quickly, and I slept really well through the night. So I was kind of fascinated myself, but I was really proud of myself to go back to the discussion that we'd had and go,
Yes.
I'm going to have to come to this person's house probably a lot, once a year. I don't want this. And I don't want anyone else to stay there and feel this and not understand it. So yeah, so that was my kind of super cool, learnt from one foot in both worlds myself. And reminded
I
myself how
love
to
that.
fix it.
Yeah,
Mm.
because I remember in that the podcast is Are Ghosts Real? And basically, as we kind of unpacked it, we came to this understanding that's basically an energetic imprint that can also have shape and form, but
Yep.
it's not, from our understanding, basically like a lost soul that's bound here. And in that podcast, you and I said, I wonder if you could clear that energy. Do you
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah.
And
So the other interesting thing is with the doorbell, the ambulance came and the lady came up and rang the doorbell. And that would have been the last sound. That would have been like the hope for this person, that because I had said, an ambulance is coming. I'm going to sit with you until they get here. And I was trying to do energy work for this person just to help them to breathe. And then the doorbell rang and I said, oh, and I raced up and Andy had already got them and
so
let them
that
in.
was the like, oh my God, I'm going to be okay. So that was involved in the energetic imprint.
Yeah, so I'm wondering now whether that doorbell will still ring for her or whether I've actually been able to clear the energy altogether and the doorbell will stop ringing, because I think that was part of the same energy. So I'm dying to know whether she actually still gets the input, like the doorbell ringing. But
Nettie, you're becoming an experiencer.
oh my gosh, might be 2025.
Yes.
No.
Buckle up, lady.
No, I don't want to.
Really?
Yeah,
I thought
really.
it was such a blessing, Nettie.
It is a blessing for you. Maybe the next life.
Oh, that's funny. Interesting what you said about frequency, because this is another piece that they brought to me. Because in the last podcast, we were talking about the pineal and frequency and your wrist and all of that. And that was the one right previous to this, the pineal and frequency. And so I was kind of sitting with it and kind of chatting with spirit a little bit, because lots of times, I don't know if people realize this, but we're learning the
Yeah.
whole time that we're doing this podcast, because spirit's giving us information as we're sitting in front of each other. So then, sometimes we'll step away and we'll just kind of, I'll process it a little bit and go, okay, but I don't fully understand this piece or that piece. So like I understood, the weddings and the funerals and the whatever, like that high energy frequency. But I know that when I've done mentoring with people, or actually, let's go back to when I was learning and I was with a mentor. Her name is Tara Diana. She's a medium out here and she's wonderful. She's a great medium. So she was my mentor, and I would sit down with her and I would do some learning. And then I would go and try and do it by myself, and I had troubles holding the frequency. And I remember asking her about it, and she was like, "That's just because I have that frequency." She's like, "So I help you be able to connect better there because I'm holding the frequency for you." She's like, "So you just need to learn basically how to hold that frequency on your own, right?"
Yep.
So obviously, I've learned how to hold that frequency by myself. But here's the super cool piece is they said it is very common in ADHD and autism for them to naturally have that frequency, which is why with like ADHD, and I can say this because I'm ADHD, you can just be like just so much energy because that actually the way they show it to me is almost like stars swirling. Like I can't explain it better than that, but that's why you have we or light workers, people that work with energy, all of that are often ADHD because that's actually the way that we're made in order to naturally hold that higher frequency, which I thought
Yeah.
was really neat. And I
Yeah.
kind of understood that, but this is, I like it when I kind of understand something, but then they tell me, and then I'm like, okay, now it's true, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. There's this guy Connor Wolf or something like that. He's an ADHD young kid, and he does a YouTube and stuff things. And when I listen to him, I'm like, oh, you're a psychic medium. Like
Yeah.
you just haven't worked that out yet, and or you're too young to like your journey isn't meant to be there yet. But the things that he talks about and the discussions in his head and all that sort of stuff, I'm like, yeah,
Hmm.
that was me as a child, except for I sat in my pineal at a very early age for some reason. And I think it's my dad, I was brought into a very calm environment where my dad and my mum sit in here naturally. So it was just kind of like the way
And I
I
think
was.
nobody thought you were strange for being the way that you were.
Yes, true.
Like they
Yes.
they were they were very supportive of it. Like in my family, when I, told them that I was doing this, they're like, not a lot of people believe that stuff, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. So
so I
so
think that
self-doubt, right?
that
Yeah.
nurturing and stuff, I think
Yeah.
probably makes a difference as well.
And I think that for a lot of ADHD people, I think that that is it. And if you feel like you've got a lot of the traits of, where you're off this way and you're going like this, but you can still stay calm, it doesn't mean you're not ADHD. It just like there's so many forms of that. And I
Yeah,
think this is
yeah.
one of the really cool tools for ADHD people to use to actually try and manage that.
That is what they said.
Yeah.
Because a very key and symptom of ADHD is emotional dysregulation, same with autism, right? And so they showed me a lot, but I can't quite dive into it yet. But it showed that sitting in that consciousness, you're trying to focus and you're trying to, yeah, whereas you would actually be better sitting back and trying to process there
Yeah.
in the pineal because emotional dysregulation is a big symptom of it. So you're going to, if you sit back, it's all going to flow a little bit better. And your body naturally has that frequency that's holding you up here in order to be able to connect and do all these different things, which is so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm 100% on that. I think we may have even spoken about it back in our very first um series, the
Oh,
one,
did we?
yeah, briefly on ADHD. I think if you could, I don't know if you can do that. Can you Google the word and find it?
If you can like control F our podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't think you
But
can.
yeah, but we did mention it very briefly. So it's interesting it's coming back to us with a lot more information. It was almost
Hmm.
like there was so much little things being seeded in that first one that were then to be unpacked and
I know.
yeah, opened up more about what they were. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's really interesting. And they talked about they seem to want me to talk about it. They talked about now, under no circumstances am I suggesting that we have the cure for autism or ADHD. I am not saying that in any way, shape, or form. I want people to understand that. Okay.
Yeah.
But what they are saying is that people with autism are extremely gifted. And if they can learn to bounce, because some are like off in their own little world. Do you know what that is? That's sitting too much in the subconscious.
Yeah.
And some can be quite balanced, but others can be too like emotional and emotionally reactive and all of that, and that's sitting too far in the conscious. So I thought that connection between the two was really interesting, but yet also a key teaching, because if what they're saying is true, which I believe them, is that those are sort of the light workers and the ones that bring the planet, not the planet, they bring a higher level of
Humanity.
frequency.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Or they tune into a higher level of frequency, I think it is.
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I think the frequency is there. I think for humans to think we control that is very interesting because I think we our egos are pretty big, but I think that we can move into those. And I think, as you said, the light workers we tend to sit in a higher frequency. And I know it from sound. Like I go into things that I can't handle the sound, and I'm like, why is everyone not tuned into this? Like, why is this not okay? And I know that I sit a different frequency from others, and so do a lot of people. Like I enjoy going to people that don't sit in my frequency because they can bring me down to a just
Yes,
like
it's grounding.
sit by the pool and have a wine. It's not something that I do. My head is going all the time. So it's really nice to get out of my own frequency and tune into theirs and just go,
Yes.
oh, this is really peaceful down here. This is not a constant kind of, there's a lot going on in my head all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you know what's really interesting about the that sensory is that's another piece of ADHD and
true.
autism is that sensory overload, because you're picking up on all the sounds, you're picking up on all the smells, you're picking up on all the energies, and it can just get absolutely overwhelming for them.
Yeah,
So that's interesting. I wonder how, because I don't have a, nobody like spirit hasn't given me a solution
yeah.
to not have that sensory overload.
Well, I think, I mean, I do energy work with people, and one of the things is that we do a few with chronic fatigue and do some anxiety. And now I'm just starting to do younger kids with sensory overload, which is only one of their things. And one of the things that we try and do, or one of the solutions is that when you have sensory overload, it's often because you start to put up these kind of guards beforehand, if that makes sense. So before they equip, they energetically on their spirit side have so much put out there to try and protect themselves from whatever it is, that they're leading not with their actual physical, they're leading with their spirit. And with their kind of their, if we say there's two hearing, there's your standard physical hearing and
Yeah.
there's your spirit hearing. They're leading actually with their spirit hearing because they're almost saying to their spirit, I don't want to go out there. I don't want to do
I
this.
don't want
This
to be
is
in
too
my
much.
physical body.
Yes, it's too much for me. So they send that frequency, that thing out first. And so they're getting all these noises and they're not just sitting in their actual physical. So they're hearing so much more than what someone else is. My brother has 6 kids, right? He has 5 boys and a girl. And the girl is, she's a top girl. She is, she can flatten any of those boys if she needs to. Like she can hold her own, right? Um,
Yep.
she's full on. And I went over to my other brothers for a swim, and he has a girl and a boy. The girl went to her room because it's way too sensory for her when they come over. I got in the pool with these people and I got out because I was seasick within about 3 minutes because the amount of that they were doing and the energy that they were having. And I knew from a sensory point of view, that was way too much for me. Like we were trying to have a conversation near them and I was tuning into the one that was jumping and getting excited. So I actually had to I felt myself putting my guards up and I was just getting like this. And I had to actually drop them and say, no, just be in your physical and just tune into the people talking to you, not them. They've got nothing to do with you. And it was actually shifting my mental thing to say, actually get more in the physical and less in my pineal, because I don't need to pick up everyone else around me. I just need to pick up my two
Ah, yes,
brothers, my
yes, yeah.
sister-in-law,
Okay.
right? So,
Okay.
so I went very into my physical, and it's interesting when I do it because I get hungry and thirsty, which is weird because I start to go, I'm in my physical now, must be thirsty. Like, because I can actually get into that spot where I'm out of my physical for too long and I'm like, oh, I haven't drank all day or I haven't eaten all day or,
Right.
and it's not a great place to be. So there's that really big balance of being in the two. And I think what happens with those people, and it just gets worse and worse, is they keep putting their guards up. They put out, they send spirit out first. And so, when they get to the point where, oh, that was way too overload, then they're even more scared and they do it. And if I walk into someone for the first time and I actually physically see like one of those armored soldier things that are standing there, I walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got a lot to get through, a lot to unpack. And usually the number one thing they've got is safety. They do not feel safe. And they often feel judged, you know, because they've started to withdraw a bit and not feel like they're part of everyone. And so this safety and this judgment that goes into safety, that I don't feel like I'm going to fit and everything's going to go wrong, is the first things that we literally do some energy work and we start unpacking those. And once you start unpacking it, it's really cool to see. I love going over and then seeing no armor on this person. Like I walk in the door and they're not putting anything up when I walk in anymore. They don't need to. And then someone else will walk in the door and the armor will pop up again. And you're just like, whoa, look at that difference in energy that they've had to do. And they're tired all the time because it's really hard putting that spirit energy actually uses a higher frequency, so it exhausts your physical body faster. So it's, yeah.
Do you think they're conscious of putting up that sort of spirit energy, or that's just their way of kind of protecting against the world, but they're putting it up, but it's actually causing the sensitivity? Am
Yeah.
I hearing that? Yeah. So it's they're
It's a chicken and
they're
the egg.
feeling, yes. So they're feeling sort of like overwhelmed. So then they put this up, but then it's holding them in this higher frequency where they're continuing to get this onslaught of information. Whereas if they just brought that down, come up not all the way forward, but just a little bit forward into the physical
Yeah.
conscious, then you're in your body and you're processing it better.
Yeah. It's interesting you said that, because one of the first things I do is talk about being in your physical. I'm talking about clapping your hands, hearing the sound,
Yeah,
clicking your
yeah,
fingers, hearing the sound. It's most of the work that I do at the start is we do energy releasing and we work back into our physical again. We
right.
actually learn to be more in the moment. And even, touching other people, like physically touching them or giving someone else a massage and things like that. And it's just physically actually feeling
Bringing
that.
them back into their body.
Yeah, but you're 100% correct in that most people don't know that that's what it was, and they don't realize that they slowly built this up themselves. And usually there's a seed at the core of this, an event that happened around that seed, and they have built that up, put it in the suitcase, whatever they've done, and it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it's a matter of undoing all those layers to find out like what is it at the start. And usually it's like I try and tune into I see these that kind of these energy bubbles, and I try and work out what they are, and then we try and just release those. And it doesn't mean we want safety to go away, because safety is really important. We just want safety to get down to a really manageable place where it's actually protecting your body, protecting your spirit, protecting everything in a good way, not in an oversensitive over thing. I haven't left the house in 3 years,
Right,
or I can't go to work anymore, or,
right.
I don't want to be near my friends. It's the one thing that's really upsetting me most is how many teenage girls I'm seeing in this, 13 to about 18. There is so many people that need help with this. We should be talking about it more. We should be doing this practice more. Any mother that has a teenager in that era that is going through it, I really feel for you, because you feel helpless. And unfortunately, you become a massive lifeline. So their cord that goes to their mum just gets big and thick, and the mother in that situation just
Becomes the
says,
safety.
Yeah, and it's like your child is becoming almost an infant again, reattaching itself to you. And it's just like, go and do stuff, go and play, go and do that. And they won't. They're like,
Yeah.
Mum, you're
Yeah.
the energy, because you share a lot of energy with your mother, and you can rebuild that up. And so it's like, how do you not push them away, but push them away? How do you get them back
Hmm.
into life again? And when you feel so helpless, and yeah, and
It's
it's exhausting.
it's really interesting what they're showing me right now because they're showing me like the intuitive nervous system and the physical nervous system, and they're showing that when somebody gets sort of too far into that spirit, like we're talking about, like guards with it, it throws out the body's physical nervous system.
Absolutely.
And then so the body's physical nervous system is like, and spirit's just sitting here like all fine and ready. Yeah, we're good, we're solid. But it's like bringing that awareness and that energy back into that symbiotic state in the middle of the pineal, whichever sort of space that fits for you, to cause the body to be in symbiosis. Does that,
Yeah,
I think that's really because
100%.
I think what we're saying, which I think is actually really interesting because I'm very much about the physical, but clearly I've got a few things to learn in this about because what they're saying is that it has to be the balance between the two. We can't just be one and we can't just be the other. We need them side by side, balancing each other out. Because
Yeah.
excuse me, if you don't have them balancing each other out, which they are innately meant to do, that's when you have mental health. That's when you have all of these sort of dysregulations.
Yeah. And you're going to have all those pressures. You're going to have those mental health pressures and things. It's how you deal with them that makes that difference. So we're all going to get all these things happening to us. And as you said, if we're aligned, or the way they show to me aligned, so you're, right next to each other, but in line with each other, they then
Yeah, that's
they
how I see it too. But it's like
yeah,
this. Yes,
yeah,
I
that's
agree.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that the system is just going to flow, and your nervous system, in some way your spirit nervous system and your physical nervous system will work as one, um, and so you pick
Yes.
up on all those little things. But as you said before, for most of them, I see their nervous system as this reactive. Like if you were to touch them on the shoulder, they'd be jump like
Yes.
they're just like, whoa, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with physical. Often they don't want to hug anyone or touch something. Some of them will. It is different. We all are unique characters. And I think if it wasn't so unique, it would be so easy to fix.
Yes.
But it's not. But definitely, like, someone will come, oh, Nettie, you can help them because, you're really good with your spirit work. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to work with them physically. I'm going to tell them to put their hand in a bowl of water and tell me what
Yeah.
it feels like. You know, I'm going to get them so out of their spirit, because if you talk to a lot of them, they do hours and hours and hours of meditation trying to fix this. They
But it's not the solution.
No, and
It's
it's
not the
definitely a
solution.
tool that they should continue with, because it does help them calm, and it helps them with their mental health, and it
But
helps them
getting
get into
more
it.
into spirit isn't the solution. Getting more into
No,
your physical can be the solution.
that's right. It's the balance. We're going back to that balance again. Where is that pinch of salt? Like, you're putting it in you're spicing up the wrong end of it, thinking that, oh, I need spirit to help me out of this. But you need to actually move back into your physical and start to do those sort of things, and do little crafty things that use your mind to move your hands to do something, get that origami out, and,
Well,
send
and that's
everyone
when you
a
can
thing.
keep your conscious mind busy enough to be able to naturally just kind of slip into that pineal. And then you're going to go,
Yeah.
and when you feel that, that is what you're chasing.
Yeah.
You're chasing the ability to go out and about in the world, connect to that space that you feel when you're walking, meditating, or when you're doing a craft, or when you're painting, or you're doing something. That's what you're aiming for, to be in that state of mind throughout your days.
Yeah. I met up with all the rallies, and I met with Andy's cousin. She's the most beautiful girl, and she is full into hiking. Like, I'm talking hardcore Antarctic hiking. And my son asked the question, is what is it that you enjoy so much about it? And she was also talking about the people. She said the other fellow hikers. When you come across them in these extreme hiking, it's just amazing. And she said, you just instantly know you've got each other back and your friends. And I think for her, that is when she sits in that really good balance between physical, because it's very physical based, but it's also highly intuitive because it's dangerous places that they're walking. They're walking up glaciers and rocks and things like that. But she said it's this whole amazing, beautiful feeling of the whole world is this balance for her at the time. Everything feels right. And then you come across someone and their energy is just identical to yours. And I think because that in that stage, they're so in their correct little balance of pineal to get their subconscious and their conscious, their spirit, their nervous system all working as one, that it is a euphoric feeling. It's a great feeling
Yes.
to be in that. And she said,
Yeah.
I feel really lucky to have actually found mine, like to found my place. And, you know, for some people it's horse riding, for some people it's swimming, so some people it's writing or painting. Find your thing, but usually they will have two elements. They'll have a physical element and they'll have like a intuitive element to them. And when you can get those two together, that's where you've got to aim to be in life. And that's a really good training to.
Yes. I think it's a great way to, so like I tried sailing and they had all of these exams and I had to read this book and da, da, da. And I go to do this exam and I'm like I bombed hard. I'm not a
Yeah.
sailor. And but I did go sailing and I'm like, I need to get behind a sail. I need to
Yeah.
get on a boat. I need to feel what it feels like when the wind's doing this or the sails are doing that. You know, I'm not someone that can read the book, listen to this podcast, and be like, oh, I totally get it. That's not how my brain works, right? So we're kind of trying to give you that exercise that you can do to get the feel for it. Like somebody can
Yeah.
teach you how to ride a bike and all the mechanics, but until you actually get on the bike and get the feel for it, you're probably not going to be a great bike rider.
Yeah.
So yeah, so those are great exercises.
Is that a boat behind you on the wall? Yeah.
Yes.
So you just need to get on there. Stop the
Yeah.
book. Just get me on the
Yeah.
ship.
I just need to get on the boat and sail and then I'll be fine. But
Yeah.
trying to sort of intellectualize the whole thing, I was like, yeah, this isn't sinking in.
Yeah. And your physical was not being activated with that. It was
Yeah.
just a mental
Yeah.
game. You're like, no, I need to actually feel this through my whole hands, through my legs, through my body, through my nervous system. And
And feel the okay, so that sort of feels like when the wind hits that sail and
yeah.
you know, and this is how I correct it, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was interesting considering we
Yeah.
had no idea what we were actually going to talk about. Do you have anything else to add right now, Nettie?
No, but they are showing me 555 again. So, guys, if 555 is your number, this is the chance for change. So, listen to the past five, the download ones, and then we've got the unpacking ones as well, which are always, you know, our learnings really, which I'm sure you can relate
Yeah,
to.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I also have to say, this is a podcast you almost have to go back to the beginning. If you don't want to go fully to the beginning, start at series 2. You can hit skip the hashtag ones, but definitely do series 2. And is this series 4?
I think so.
Yeah. So, and then this one, and you should be able to get caught up. But the only ones you can skip really are the hashtag and the first series. You are definitely better off listening to them all because there's little tidbits in all of them. Just like today, it was the ghost and the residual energy,
Yeah.
right? That like it all kind of ties in. So yeah.
Right. I think that it's, you know, spirit actually said the order. So we do need to, you know, remember that it's not just Tanya and I going, oh, we'll talk about this now. We often say we're going to talk about this and we don't talk about it. So it is worthwhile if you can do it from the start. But even if something takes interest, like you want to know about frequency now, listen to this last five and then go back and then you'll probably listen to it again with new ears. I know
Yeah,
Tanya loves
absolutely.
listening to them again. You know,
I
you
do.
get a lot
I
out
do.
of it. Yeah.
I do. I really enjoy it. So with that said, thank you everybody for being here. We are so happy that you're listening. We can't wait to continue to unpack this with you, and we will see you all later. Take care.